All right, welcome everyone. It is 6 o'clock, so I want to be respectful for your time. Plus, Councilman Wrench said he hasn't had dinner yet, and so I got to get it done in time that he eats before he loses his mind. Anyway, so again, thank you all for coming. There are some maps and some exhibits around here. There's some cookies to tide you off, boss, until we get done. But if you don't know, my name is Tim Bolduc. I am the city manager for the city of Crestview. Most of you have had the opportunity to either talk with me before or at these meetings, or have sent me emails, or we've talked on the phone specifically about the Foxwood project and whether or not the city would look to buy the project and what we would look to do with it if we did buy it. Throughout the time, we've held 2 public meetings already. We've held several meetings at City Council where it was discussed, but we held 2 meetings in the Foxwood Country Club. But now that we live in the world of COVID-19 and social distancing, we wanted to get into a space that was big enough to accommodate you all. That way you can separate out and do all that. And like I've told everybody, if you came together, you can sit together. We're not going to be making you spread out, but definitely we want to be safe. We've got hand sanitizer, so if you sign the sheet or whatever, make sure you go ahead and use that. But again, I want to be respectful of your time this evening. The point of tonight's meeting is to give you all an update of where we are on Foxwood Country Club, and then on the process of annexation for the Foxwood Country Club neighborhood. Again, we met a couple of different times, and in each of those meetings, I've been able to give you a little bit more information each time. Tonight, I have a lot more information for you. We've gotten all the way down into the weeds of how much things are actually going to cost us to do as it relates to sewer and stuff like that. So I'm really going to be able to talk to you tonight about that, sewer specifically. We're going to talk to you about what the council has done towards getting prepared to do something with the property itself. If you live out there, you know that we've been out there, and so you've gotten to see us doing some mowing and some other things, and I'm going to share with you this evening what all we've been doing so far. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So the point of tonight's meeting, or the kind of the agenda for tonight, is first I'll give you an overall status update, and then once I talk about kind of the status of the project itself, I'll talk specifically about sewer, because sewer is a pretty significant part of the value that would be added with the annexation of the neighborhood. And then we'll talk about kind of what is our plan for the property itself. And then I'll show you also, as a part of the sewer update, I'm going to show you some of the rate comparisons. I love, and those of you that have been to these meetings know that no questions are off limits. Whether you like the idea, don't like the idea, I want to hear what you have to say. I want to try to combat the craziness with facts. And, I believe, and the council believes, that this is a good deal for both the city and for the neighborhood. And based on the facts of what we're trying to accomplish and what we think we have to offer for you. And so I'll answer any question that you've got today when we get to that part of it. But I'm going to talk to you specifically about rates. One of the comments that was made at the last meeting was that the rates are much higher inside the city than they are outside the city, talking about water and sewer. We'll talk, the real deal. What does it actually cost? And then what's next? Where are we going to go from here? So now that we're moving forward on this project, what's going to happen next? And so that's really the agenda for this evening. So first of all, a status update, and I would imagine that most of you probably can't read that, but you probably either read in the newspaper or on Facebook or Instagram or whatever tweets, whatever it is that we do, that the city of Crestview did acquire the Foxwood Country Club golf course. On August the 7th, we actually signed the paperwork and wrote them a check. And so we are now the proud owners of what once was a pretty golf course and is now a big bunch of weeds with some stakes and a lot of bad water problems. As of August the 7th, we own it. We also have, because we knew we were going to make the purchase, we went ahead, we've begun already the preliminary budget process for the city. In the budget for next year, we actually included money for a master plan of the site. And when we start looking at the plan, I'll talk to you about what that means. I've been talking to you all and talking to the council and the public and anybody who calls and asks, in big, huge conceptual ideas, things we would like to accomplish. Well, now that we own it, it's time for us to get the rubber down to the road and figure out where we're actually going to go. And so you've all seen, it's over here to the right of me, the little line drawing on a piece of paper that shows some field layouts and what we thought we could get if we wanted to put just baseball fields in there. But that, as I've said from the very beginning, that's just an idea that would help us make a decision as to whether or not we could move forward. When we do the master plan, we're actually going to make a plan and execute the plan that can be done and executed. And so the council has so far, we're going through the budget approval process right now, but it's been heard for the first time, and they did agree to keep the money in there for the Foxwood master plan, which is a very important thing. Also, staff has been on site since the last time we all met. The city has made some changes in our recreation department, and so we have a new recreation director, and his name is Chuck Powell. Chuck, raise your hand. Chuck's with us. He's in the back today. Chuck is a 29-year employee of the city, has been running our facilities department, has experience in recreation. One of the reasons that Chuck was the pick to move into the recreation director's position is because we know that this project is going to require a lot of interaction between contractors, a lot of work by us and things like that. And so Chuck has already been on site and meeting with the county extension office, looking at the conditions of the turf and what we would have to do to try to bring the turf back or get the turf out, that kind of stuff. So putting science to the questions. Chuck has been on site doing that. We've also made arrangements for a drone assessment. So we're going to actually video the contours of the course, looking at how the water flows. One of the things that we're seeing as we look at it, and those of you, there are a lot smarter people about this golf course in the audience today that have already spoken to me about the issues there. The water is an issue. Everybody knows that, especially on the south 9 holes. So what some of the things that we've identified is that a lot of it has to do with the shape of the way the course was made in spite of the water, instead of working with the water. So we're getting some assessments done to figure out as we move forward what is the best way to make changes to the course to not have the same problems that we've got. So he's already been doing that just in the couple of weeks that we've got it. We also have got the equipment that's there that has any value to it. We've got it up and running. We're using some of it out there right now. Some of it's over at our shop getting running. You'd be surprised for as long as that stuff sit there, how much of it we actually have gotten up and running. Makes me happy because I don't have to buy it. So we also have begun research on things like the driving range and what it's going to take to get that up and going. I'll talk about that during the plan section of tonight's presentation. We also have gone through the process of setting up the referendum for a vote for annexation. As you all know, at the very beginning of this process, it was our desire that we went into this where everybody agreed on it, and everybody, sunshine and rainbows, and we all, 141 properties said, yes, we'd love to all be residents of the city of Crestview, but we couldn't get there. And so we did go through the annexation process, or the setup for the annexation process. The last time I met, I gave you a calendar of what we thought was going to happen. And so just as everything has been with 2020, if you think about it, it doesn't matter because COVID's going to change it. And so we had different timelines in place at the beginning of the year from where we are right now, obviously. But the actual vote on whether or not you as the Foxwood Country Club neighborhood will be annexing in will occur during the presidential election this year on November 3rd. We've gone through the process. It's the question, which I'll show you what the question is, has already gone to the voting office. They've approved it, and it'll be moving forward. So that's something that we'll talk about this evening as well, and we'll get to see whether you guys are going to be a part of the city or not. So the next thing we'll talk about is the sewer update. Every time that I've been out, I've had to answer the questions with, well, it depends, and I'm not really sure, and we'll see what we can do. And one of the things I brought up at the last meeting was that I got a lot of feedback on, not necessarily positive feedback on, was the groundwater and whether the groundwater actually had any issues directly related to the failing septic tanks that are out there. And so, you know, I made a statement that said, you know, all you got to do is drive down the road right now and you can see that there's water coming out from underneath the ground. You drive through that water, then you pull into your garage, you walk into your house, and that water is mixed with the water that's coming out of your septic tanks. And I received, obviously, a lot of feedback saying, no, that's groundwater, you know, you don't know what you're talking about, so on and so forth. And so I wanted to make sure that the information, any information that I give you is accurate information. And so we actually sent our water operators out there to test the groundwater the day after the last meeting. And so when we did that, we took 4 samples, and we have the addresses. I have the actual report. It's not something I'm going to put up here, but if you'd like to see it, I have the report here. When you look at, so I put it in this brief spreadsheet for you, but just to give you a general idea, the point I was trying to make to you is that if your septic system is not working properly or is being overrun by groundwater, when the water comes out of it, what happens is if your water table gets higher than the drain field, then you're filling your septic tank up with groundwater, and you're ending up putting what's inside your septic tank out before it goes through the appropriate process to be treated. And so there's a way that you can measure that, and that's called fecal chloroforms, or fecal columns. And so we took 4 different samples, and when you look at this spreadsheet, this shows you the results of those samples. So the sample that was taken on Golf Course Drive resulted in 328 parts per 100 milliliters of sample, all right? So the allowable content in 100 milliliters in a 100 milliliter sample is 1. And so the test resulted at 328. So what that shows you, the detection limit means that anything detected over 1 needs to be reported. Anything, and then, so usually it's detection level and then reporting level. So when it shows up, the lowest amount that can show up, and then what needs to be reported. So the golf course sample was 328 instead of 1. 1 is the maximum amount you should have. The one that was taken, the second sample taken on Country Club, where it says TNTC, that means that the fecal columns were too numerous to count. So when the sample was taken, they bring it there. The first sample, they were able to count that there was 328 fecal columns in it. The second sample that was taken, it was too numerous to even count. The third sample was taken on Country Club as well. I'm sorry, it was first was Golf Course, then Country Club, and then the second one on Country Club. That one, where it says detection limit 2, that means that there was a greater dilution rate in it. So we could have, for that sample, you could have gotten back a reading of 2, and it would have been reported, but okay. Instead, that reading came back at 146. All right, the third one was taken on Par Court, and it came back also with too numerous to count. So the fecal columns in it were too numerous to count. The reason I'm showing you this is because, like I said at the beginning of this, I will answer any question you want. These things are, my comments are facts-based. We provided for you what the tax rate would be, what the water and sewer rates would be. When I made that statement during the last meeting, I didn't have facts to back it up, so we sent someone out there to test it. We used a third-party company to test it. It's Analytical Services, and again, I have that report if you'd like to see it. What that really is telling you is that yes, you have a groundwater problem. That is what you're seeing is the groundwater, but what's happening is because you have so much groundwater, septic systems are not able to do what they need to do. All right? So annex or don't annex with us, you're going to end up dealing with it from a septic tank perspective. So then we've also talked over the course of the meetings about what it would take to actually build a system inside of Foxwood to connect. And so I was asked a couple of times, would this system be a gravity feed system, which means there's no outside pump with it, or would it be a pump-driven system, meaning that just outside the door of your house you would have a small, what they call grinder pump, but it's a small pump that's inside the ground that actually reduces the waste down so that it can send it through a smaller pipe. We have since, I told you I don't know. I gave you some ideas of what the 2 different costs would be, but I was very honest, I didn't know until we had a chance to study it more. So we've had our staff has been out there, we've taken all of the topographical data that's associated with the properties. We took a look at the plans from when the county did the road improvements, the road drainage improvements, and got some spots off of that so we could get good elevations. And we did an assessment of which system would be best, either gravity or what they call a low pressure or a grinder system. We believe that the only option for your particular situation is to do the low pressure system. If we did a gravity feed system, because of the elevation changes, there's about 40 foot of elevation change in the span of what we have to do going in the wrong direction from the sewer plant. So and you've got highs and lows in the middle of the space that we're working with, and I won't bore you with all of the details of it, but I really pushed hard on staff to try to figure out, is there a way that we can do it as a gravity system, and that's just not something we're going to be able to do. And so when we got through that process, and then we got surprised by, originally when I talked to you, I didn't realize, I didn't know that the county had done the drainage that they did underneath the roads in there, which seems to be working real well. But anyways, the drainage underneath the roads, I didn't know that they had done that at the time. That actually has a pretty significant impact on the directional bores that we would have to do related to installing the system. And so now we know that. We went back and did some recalculations, and the total cost to provide sewer there is going to be about $1.196 million. So for us to put a system in there, it's going to cost us about $1.2 million. And that would be a low pressure system with pumps at the house. To give you a general idea, so if you just called us up today and you said, hey, we have decided as a neighborhood, or the health department comes in and says we will no longer permit your septic systems because they're failing, then we need to have a wastewater system inside of our neighborhood. The way that works is we would go out and do this, and then we would assess each property based on the number of properties that we were serving. So if you take that number and you divide it up by the number of residents that are there, it's an individual cost of about $8,340. So if you just called us up and said, hey, come provide sewer for us, and we went in there and we decided that it was worthwhile for us to do that, then we would then go do the estimate and then assess each property based on that. So properties that are county properties would at least be doing it at that rate. Post-annexation, if you choose to do the annexation, what I have said from the very beginning, and what we will continue to stand by, even though the price has gone up on us a couple of different times, is that we will allow you to do it at the regular sewer impact fee rates. So whatever the current impact fee rate is, we would allow the residents of Foxwood to attach for that rate. So our current our impact fee rate as of October the 1st is going to be $3,200. Some of you will remember that it was $2,900 when we very first started this conversation. We've since done a rate study. And so that the current rate, or the rate in October, will be $3,200, and that's for everybody that comes into the city. And so even at that, you're still seeing, over a $5,000 initial savings. The other thing is, if we build the system outside of our jurisdiction, the only way that we could do that is if everybody connected all at once. And so we would have to get to the place where everybody did it that way. If the annexation is a success, we have agreed to, the council has agreed to putting the initial capital cost for the construction of the wastewater system into a bond that we're having to issue already for expansion to the plant. So we would be not having, that money would be coming out, and we would be paying for it over time. So we could stand by the original comment, which was to allow you, we'll get it in place and allow you to connect at the time that you need to connect or desire to connect. That only happens if we're guaranteed to get all of them eventually, so we would only do it that way as a part of the annexation. I have gotten the question, and I love the questions, I love the communication, but I've gotten the question that says, well, you guys, the reason you want us to do this is so that you can use our tax money to pay for the golf course. You should give us the taps for free. Well, what I've just demonstrated to you, I paid $1.2 million, the city paid $1.2 million for the golf course, give or take some change. It's $1.2 million for us to put the sewer in. It doesn't make any sense for us to give away the sewer and bond that money. We're bonding one or the other. And so, this, as I said at the very beginning, this is a deal that's mutually beneficial for everyone. That's why we can't do it. In addition to that, the way that our debt service is written and the way that rate studies are done, impact fees are something that have to be charged evenly across the board, so we can't kind of pick and choose where we charge them. But that's what we're looking at. So for the city, the total cost, again, would be at about $1.2 million. At the very beginning of this, you asked, or many people asked me, when would you do it? And I said, I don't know, 3 years, 4 years down the road, maybe 5 years. The last meeting I said the earliest I could do it was in 2 years. And so would actually, if the annexation is successful in November, excuse me, if the annexation is successful in November, we have a plan as far as a financing plan to go ahead and begin the process to put wastewater in. So from the time that we started November, it's a 6 or 8 month permitting process, construction process begins after that. So within a year to year and a half, Wayne, year and a half, we would be able to connect you guys would be able to connect to the wastewater system. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. To connect to the sewer system, does that mean to go from where the water in my house flows out of the house all the way to the sewer? Is that where the connection is going to be in my house, or is it going to be at the street? Or
okay, good question. So I think the question was, does this number include getting it from your house to the system that we install in the ground? Yes. So this number means you're actually sending us sewage at that point. And one of the questions I got is, how are you going to do it? So I got this really cool drawing. But basically, to simplify, this is, in theory, this is your existing septic tank. Some of the questions were, will you leave my septic tank in place? Will you use my septic tank? Will you stick a pump in there? And I said, I don't know. Well, now I know. So the answer to that question is, because of the current condition of the tank, the majority of the tanks that are in Foxwood, and our conversations already with the health department, we would not be able to leave the tanks in service. The health department is having issues with the tanks being in service at all. And so we actually would abandon the tank, so we would cap the tank off, and then we would reroute the line. There would be a pump here that then ran out to the main line that we did outside the house. And so the septic system, the tank itself would end up having to be abandoned. And I got 2 questions. I'm gonna start here in the back and I'll come right to you. Yes, sir.
If you've got a septic system that is operating correctly and in good shape, it's your call whether you want to switch.
Is that a question or a statement?
Yes.
It's a question. So the question was, if your septic tank is operational, will we require you to connect? If we do the project as a part of the annexation, the answer to that question is no, we will not require you to connect. Eventually you will, because eventually it will fail, but we're not going to do it off the bat.
And the impact fee is to everybody?
The impact fee?
Just the people who connect.
The impact fee is at the time of connection, and it will be whatever the fee is at the time of connection. So in your particular case, if you said, hey, I want to go ahead and pay for it, I want to pay my fee but not connect, because I want to pay at the rate that it currently is right now. So we're at 3,200 right now. Was it 29? So the first time I talked to you, the rate was 29. We completed a rate study, it's now 32. So if you decide you're going to connect 5 years from now, you would connect at whatever the rate is. And so you can decide that we don't care if you want to pay for your connection now but not connect, so you're not having to pay the monthly bill because you're operational, and lock in the current rate. I don't care if you want to pay 10 years from now when you connect. I don't care. That's if the annexation is successful. If the annexation is not successful, we have to decide whether we do sewer at all, and then if we do, everybody would have to connect at once, which is supported by the statute. Yes, sir.
Where does power come from to run the pump?
The pump at your house comes from your house. Yes, sir.
So you talk about abandoning the septic tanks. What does that mean? Is an abandoned septic tank fine forever to sit there?
Sure.
Or are we looking at cost to fill it, tap it, whatever down the road?
So the question is, when I say abandon the septic tank, what does that mean? There's a couple of different ways you can do it. As a part of this process, we would do the least expensive way to abandon it as a part of connecting you. And so that would mean we would fill it with gravel or whatever the minimum requirement by the health department is. Some of you have mound systems, and this is some of the big ugly system in the middle of your yard. If you wanted that tank completely removed, and that's up to you. But we would, as a part of this part of the fee that we talked about earlier, it would be the minimum amount required by the health department, which is more than likely going to be to abandon it in place. It'll either be filled with gravel or dirt or whatever their minimum requirement is. So I'll go here and then I'll go back there and then I'll come here. Yes, sir.
You're saying that to go with this, but can we get a private contractor to do this for us?
Can you get a private contractor to do what part?
With the Brian grant?
You can, but the thing is you're still gonna have to connect to our system.
Okay, but he might do it cheaper than we do.
You still have to connect to the system. So the impact fee is to offset the impact.
So regardless of this, you're gonna charge $1,300.
That's correct. That's correct, because it's an impact to the system. Well, okay, so he said that's BS. So let's take a look at it. The actual cost, so right here, the infrastructure cost, and I'll show you this in the spreadsheet, exactly what it is. But to install the grinder pump at 105 units, because there's 105 houses inside the 141 lots that are there right now. To install 105 grinder pumps, so the pumps, the pipes, everything, it costs $714,000 of that is the grinder pump component. So the cost to actually install the grinder pump is $6,800. So, you know, I said no, but I mean, the challenge that we have is we have to put the pipe into the ground. And so we need to offset as much of that cost as we can. But $6,800 of that $8,000 is the portion that goes to your house, the abandoning of the pump and the installation of the pump and all the stuff that goes in the ground. So it's unlikely that you're gonna find it with a cheaper with a contractor anyways, but you're welcome to try. Somewhere this way. Yes, sir, in the brown.
Yeah, would that price include having your septic tank sucked out prior to this work, or is that something we'd have to pay for extra?
So the question was, does the price that we've include backing out the tank itself? That's a part of the abandoning process. Yes, it's part of the price. And again, the price that we're giving you is the price that everybody pays to connect to our system. It's not the actual cost price. We're actually losing money. Yes, sir. I'll come back to you, ma'am.
If you have two tanks, if you have a gray water tank and a sewer tank, is the connection fee the same?
Yes. Yeah, it's a single connection fee. The abandonment, we'd have to abandon both. We have to abandon the gray water too. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. I'll come to you in just a second. Yes, ma'am.
Tell me again exactly where the pump will be.
It'll depend specifically on your house, but it'll be just outside wherever the wastewater currently comes out of your house. So right now you have a pipe that comes out into the septic tank. The pump itself will be probably, it depends on your house, what's there. If there's obstructions, 1 to 2 feet to 3 feet from the house is where that pump will be. It just depends on your house. Yes, sir. I'll come back to it. Yes, sir.
Is that fee gonna be a one-time,
Yes, sir.
one-time payment?
It's an impact fee, yes.
You won't be able to make payments on?
Can you do payments? Have we done payments?
We haven't historically, but that's an option that you can discuss.
So,
It'd be great to have $3,000 ready, right?
so here's the deal. If it's not a deal breaker for us, we're bonding the money already. So and I got 3 of the council members here. We'd have to look at how we do it, but if that's the difference between people saying, yes, we're gonna vote yes on the annexation, we'll figure out a way to do it in payments. Yes, sir.
Put the grinder, they're more responsible for maintenance of it, right?
On the grinder, it depends on the agreement that we put together. So we have it both ways in the city. We have places where we maintain the grinders and places where they are responsible for maintaining the grinders. What I have told you in Foxwood is, if you guys annex into the city, we will maintain the grinders at least for the first 10 years. So that's what I told you from the beginning, contrary to what my people are telling me we should do, we will stick to what I said. So that means we put it in, we put money in our budget every year to replace them if they fail, but we don't have as much of a problem with them as you would think. Yes, sir.
Tim, just out of curiosity, how big is that pump?
That's a question I don't know. Dwayne, how big's the pump?
The only thing you see above the ground is it'll be
It's like a garbage can lid above the ground is what you're looking at.
obviously it's level.
And it's-
You can actually drive your lawnmower over it.
Yeah, no, it's not, you're not looking at it. This thing, it's basically the equivalent of like a garbage can buried under the ground. And so you see, it's like a manhole cover that you see, except for it's hard PVC. So, did I miss somebody? Yes, ma'am.
Do you have those already installed in the city somewhere?
We do. We do. do we have them in Fox? We don't have low pressure in Fox Valley, do we?
Not in Fox Valley.
We had it in our house in Fox.
Yeah,
We were over there for about a year. And it's, that's about 4 feet up
Yeah.
and down, looks like a garbage can, has it over, pulls it up to the curb.
I wasn't aware of one in Fox Valley, but I do know where it's at now.
Country View.
But yes, we have it in Country View,
Yeah.
in Key Lime Homes.
Yeah, we have several different, we have this system in several different places in the city. And like I said, one of the Key Lime Home one, we maintain,
Yes, sir.
and then the Country View, they maintain, so. Am I missing any questions before I move on? Okay. Good stuff, great questions. All right, so then the question begs, so how much are your rates? Like, what does the utility rate cost? I'm sure that you're seeing in the news or hearing or seeing on Facebook, the city just went through a rate study. There's an increase to their water bill, blah, 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 blah. So I wanted to show you how that works out. These are, what you're looking at here is, these are the water bills, these are sewer bills, and this is a combined bill, okay? So for Auburn Water, Defuniak, so on and so forth. Right now, you're on Okaloosa County. So if you consume 7,000 gallons of water, all right, everything's based on the amount of water that you use. If you consume 7,000 gallons of water, then your bill in Okaloosa County for just the water and sewer, this doesn't include your refuse, is somewhere in that $80 range. These two numbers right here, this is the city of Crestview's current combined bill. This is the city of Crestview's combined bill as of October 1st. So, when all the hype about, oh, well, they're raising and they're doing whatever, just so you know, we are raising, but we're still way below everybody around us. And we can provide the backup data for all this stuff if you're interested. How does that compare to your actual bill you're getting at your house? This is the same bill for a 7,000 gallon house if they're doing water and sewer. So in Okaloosa County right now, your garbage bill is broken into 3 pieces, or if you have a secondary recycle bin, but it's $7.18 for the landfill fee, this is their rate in October. This is what you will be in October. Right now, it's a little bit less than this, but they have a rate increase on their garbage in October, I know for sure. I don't know if they have one on water. So this is the current water bill in the county and the October bill for garbage. So basically, if you have water and sewer in Okaloosa County and you do 7,000 gallons and they have garbage, your bill would be about $110. The exact same setup inside the city, the bill would be $92.84. Yes, sir.
Just for apples to orange though, we're not paying sewer in Okaloosa.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
No, I'm getting there. Absolutely. So what I did was, you're not paying that. So what you have to do though is look right here. So you've got the sewer, the sewer bill for this particular property is $51.14. The sewer bill here is $46. So if you subtract the 2 from them, you're still at about a $4 or $5 a month savings on the bill without the sewer. With the sewer, it's a greater savings because sewer costs more money. So the city will have an October stormwater. They don't have a stormwater. You pay that at the end of the year in your MSBU that's on your bill. I think it's an MSBU. But anyway, that'll go away as well. So just to give you a general idea, if you did sewer inside the county and you had sewer versus sewer inside the city, this is what this bill would look like. I actually have 2 bills here, actual bills that are the minimum. If you have the minimum bill in the county, water, sewer, and garbage, and the minimum bill in the city, water and sewer and garbage, it's a $14 a month savings inside the city. So just to give you an idea, so all the hype about our rates are high, oh my God, the city's gonna get you. This is the truth. This is what the rates actually are, and I'll provide it for you. Yes, ma'am?
What is the rate in the city minimum?
For the base fee, the base rate for water and sewer? So it depends on, it's all based on gallons, right? So the number of gallons that you use. But if your minimum bill, say you use less than the minimum gallons that are allowed, it's $50.40 for water, sewer, and garbage. Because our garbage is less too. Our garbage is at $22.95. The county's garbage is, all 3 of these numbers together, it's like $26 even. So you pay $26 for garbage in the county, you pay $22.95 for it in the city.
My bill is not $41.
In the county, it's because you don't have sewer. So your bill was $40, what'd you say was 40? So your bill was $41, it would have been, inside the city, your bill would have been whatever $50 minus $17 is, so 40 minus that, so it'd be 33. You'd have paid 33 in the city, 33 and some change. Yes, no, without sewer. You don't have sewer right now either, so you gotta, like you said, you gotta compare apples to apples.
It'd be about $10 more.
So with sewer, your bill would have been $50.40 with sewer. So you'd pay $10, right, thanks. Thanks for catching me up, it's late in the day. I missed up what you're asking. Yes?
It's all based on water use. You got sprinkler systems used in county water.
Uh-huh.
How does that play into the,
So we have irrigation, you have an irrigation meter with the county? We have irrigation meters too, it'll be handled the same way. You only have one meter?
Yeah, our irrigation systems pull right off the house.
Right, so if you don't want to pay the sewer part of it, then we can install for you an irrigation meter so you don't pay sewer based on not putting it in the sewer system. If you don't have sewer connected, then you can do it the way that you're doing it. Actually, we're supposed to have them separate so we can track it, but we can do it either way. What we do here, just like over in Fox, the other Fox that's over there, they have a lot of irrigation in there as well, so we do irrigation meters. That way you don't, because your sewer is calculated based on your water consumption. And so if you're watering your yard with the same meter that's going into your house, you're paying sewer on it unnecessarily. If you have sewer, you don't currently have it, but yes, sir.
Which is just that whole piece is new to me. If we do the hookup and get everything set up, is there additional charges to add the irrigation?
For the irrigation meter, do we have an irrigation meter fee? No, is there a charge for the irrigation meter?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so yeah.
So do we know how much that is?
I'm not in the billing portion of it, but
I'll put it in the group so everybody
Okay,
knows.
thanks.
That's also something we could negotiate if we can get everybody annexed. Adding the second meter because we're doing it at the same time. You know, that might be something I could work on. Yes, sir.
Yeah, buy sewer and water from the city with just sewer. If I've already got county water, can I leave it that way, just on the sewer?
You will either be buying from the county or the city. So the county and I have to work out that transition part. I've already reached out to the county administrator just in case it annexes. But if it annexes, yes, you would buy both from the city. And it has to work that way because, well, it doesn't have to work that way, but for us to do this, for us to spend $1.2 million on this, we would have to do it that way. There's no way I could say just keep what you want. You understand what I'm saying? Because for us, there's an economy of scale to this. And I'm responsible to, the taxpayers and the utility users and everybody inside the city. And so we didn't just give it all away. So if we go through the cost of running lines and getting everything connected in there, yeah, everyone would have to connect. It's cheaper. Our monthly bill for water is cheaper than the county anyway. So, and it probably tastes better. Any other questions on this? All right. Actually comes from the same aquifer, so it probably is about the same. All right. So what's the plan? Are we good on sewer? I mean, do we understand? Any questions on sewer before I move on? Going once, going twice? All right, done. So what is the plan? You all have seen this very highly technical drawing, a bunch of lines on a piece of paper. This was really so I could go, hey, is there any economy of scale to this at all? This is how we started. Again, even the last time I talked to you, I said these fields in the middle, it's highly unlikely that those fields would exist like they are. There is a lot of contour changes over here, well, throughout the whole thing. The property is beautiful, right? So that's one of the reasons we liked the idea of not making it housing and thought, man, this could be a great amenity for the city. So it's beautiful. So we want to, as we develop, whatever we develop on the top portion, we want to do that using the contours of the land as much as possible so that it stays beautiful. So, as I mentioned earlier, the City Council has actually allowed me to place in the budget enough money to hire a consultant to come in and do a master plan. So how fields or whatever ends up being up here, how that actually lays out is something that will be discussed over the next year or so. and the design plans will be done. We will hold public meetings just like this, except for they're called charrettes, because charrettes is a cool name. And we'll put, we'll put pictures up here, the consultants will be here, people will draw on them, and we'll look at them and figure out what's the best way that we can do this. You probably have all heard that the county has started the conversation about a bed tax for hotel. We currently have a bed tax in the south end. They have been talking over the last couple of years about potentially having the hotels on the north end do a bed tax. That's something you will have to vote on. But in the event that that did occur, that is a source that we would be able to use to get money to go ahead and do the development of this particular project. So in anticipation of that, I've already sat down with some of our county commissioners at different times, obviously, and I've sat down with the director of the Tourist Development Council to see exactly what that would mean for us. It's important that you understand, it's important that the council understands, and this is exactly what I've relayed to them. We are not interested in turning this thing into some, 24/7 sports complex that people are playing ball on every single week. What our goal is to construct a recreation facility that meets the needs of this community and can be used to do tournaments as it becomes available. That will have to be a component of it if we want to tap into that revenue source, which would expedite the development of the process. It also will help us to move forward the golf course, because there's a big hill of money between now and getting a golf course running, right? And so me trying to figure out ways that we can do that, that's a big part of that process. But it's important that you understand that all of this design, you will have the opportunity to be a part of, and it's our goal to build these fields in such a way that we can do both. So that if you go, every once in a while, you'll take the kids down to Panama City and wife goes shopping, Pier Park and all that. And when you go look at those ball fields, it's this really big, flat field with all these lights. That is the opposite of what we want here. That's not Crestview. It doesn't speak Crestview. That is absolutely not what we're looking for. We want to be able to accommodate games and tournaments if we have them, but we're going to do it in a way that matches us. That's part of the reason that keeping that south end as a golf course is so important to me. Did you have a question?
Yes. The back 9 holes of with it that's integrated into the Foxwood community there, will they, until something happens with that, will they continue to be mowed?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, we'll continue to mow it. Again, it's our goal, has been our goal. I'm coming right to. Did I skip you already once?
No.
Okay, go ahead, man. I think I skipped you.
I haven't heard nothing about this yet. Maybe I missed it. Kind of deals with lights. I moved there almost 30 years ago because utilities were underground.
Right.
Street lights, that's how I liked it.
Right.
Do you guys have plans to bring street lights in there and do other stuff with the electricity?
We do not have plans to bring streetlights in
Don't
there.
like street lights?
No.
I don't either.
Right.
That's why I'm
Yeah, so here's the deal. Streetlights cost us money. We have no desire to bring streetlights in. Streetlights are an amenity that the city does provide in other areas. So that would be something, if you were in the city, you could petition the council for. But I can assure you there is zero return on the investment for this guy. We have no desire to go put streetlights in your streets at all. I mean, that's not something that we're interested in doing. That would be something that would be neighborhood generated back to the council at a time when we had already swallowed this big thing. Because what happens with that, it all runs through Gulf Power, but we spend around $350,000, $400,000 a year on streetlights across the city. If I don't have to put them in your neighborhood, that makes me happy. All right? So he asked if we would continue to mow the south end of it. Yes. We will be mowing it, keeping it beat down. Chuck, I introduced you to Chuck in the back. He's working on trying to figure out what do we do to bring back as much of that grass as we can for whatever we decide to do with it moving forward. Where we are with it, the master plan is going to help to decide what actually occurs inside that space. It's our desire to try to have 9 holes of golf. That's been our desire from the very beginning. Most of the consultants that I've met with and spoke to have advised me that it is that the best scenario they see for us is to turn it into a par 3 9-hole course if it's going to be municipally run. So if the city's going to run it, in order for us to manage the cost of the golf course at a rate that is manageable and handle the facts some of the issues that we have with water. When you look at that, rearranging the golf course so that it's either a par 3 or primarily a par 3 will help us to be able to better manage that course. Some of the options are, I'll come around, I got like 4 people that want to hit me in the eye over that one. But part of the deal, the other thing we've talked about is, multiple tee boxes to make it look like you play play it around 2 rounds and you play 2 different courses and things like that. Did I have a hand here first on the par 3 thing, and then I'm coming to you. All right, yes, sir.
My son lives in Oviedo, Minnesota, just north of Minneapolis,
Yep.
Orlando. And they just purchased a golf course over there, Three Rivers. And whatever they're doing, it might behoove the city to have to take a look at their performance because they're making money.
Yeah, I think you brought up Three Rivers to me last time, didn't you? Yeah. We're gonna check it out for sure.
And as long as you're out here mowing and spending the money on gas anyway.
Yeah, every inch costs. But again, that's the reason we're bringing someone in to do the master plan for us. I have to figure out, I'm coming to you, I have to figure out how to take it from snake-infested pit that it is right now to playing golf on it without getting, run out of city because of how much it costs and things like that too. So all of those are factors. How we figure out to do that, we may do it in a phased plan and we may just mow it for the next little while until we do something. But all that's going to be a part of that master planning process that you guys can come out and be a part of. Yes, sir.
So on the topic of maintenance of the property, and you and I had actually talked about this several months ago, is we have this issue with the storm drainage.
Right.
I've recently noticed on Country Club, not only does that thing back up to 3 feet deep, the road is now starting to crumble from the water. Road maintenance, clearing those storm drainage areas. I talked to the county said, oh, talk to your HOA, they own the property. I said, no, they don't. They said, oh, then talk to the city because they're gonna annex you. And they washed their hands of it. Are we gonna get those runoff areas cleared out so the water can flow and get the roads?
So, right, good question. Backing up over here, the city, part of the problem the county has is, see how I can do this real careful because I'm on camera. So there has to be, in order to maintain stormwater properly, there has to be a mechanism to do that. The city this year just took the step to go ahead and do a stormwater utility. That's part of that. So yes, we will be maintaining the stormwater component of it. I'll be honest with you, I'm not super excited about it because it's a disaster over there, but it is something that if we're, if it's inside the city, it's our obligation and our responsibility to maintain. And you will be paying for it to happen on your water bill, so we're gonna have to. We actually looked at the plans, the inverted crown drainage field that they did, and I understand what they were trying to do, but it doesn't seem like it's working. So we don't know if it's a maintenance issue. Once we go through in November 4th, when we figure out what you guys decide, then we'll go in there and really start looking at, the problem with that type of a drainage system is it's gravel based, and so it has to be maintained and flushed and things. We have to go see what's going on. But yeah, stormwater unfortunately is something that we'll have the pleasure of serving you with. So, all right. Going back to the plan. Part 3, was there any other hands over about the golf course question, comment? Okay, so where we are with it right now is I am in the process of reviewing invitation to bids, which is in local government. Whenever you decide to enter into any sort of a contract, you go through this process where you put out an invitation, people make bids on it, and then you make the best decision possible and council approves it. To look at the actual clubhouse to determine whether or not we can, remember I told you our goal is to try to find private management of the golf course, private management of the restaurant. That's our first desire with both cases. We're in the process of doing that. The more we go through this process, the more feedback we get on that country club actual building. We may actually be looking at, this is news to the city council members who are here, so they'll love that. But we may actually look at bulldozing that thing and coming back with a shell building type option and then doing some kind of a joint venture with a private company to come in and put a restaurant in there. It is going to be necessary for us to do something with that property to offset the expenses, and that's part of why we're doing it. Something similar to what the county does with the pier, where they have a revenue sharing type process up there. So that's something that'll be talked about in the master plan, but that's part of it. The other part of the plan is it is our desire to have the driving range up and running by the spring. We're already looking at the grass and what we need to do to make it manageable. We've been over there looking and working prices on the nets. Chuck's been doing all that. We've got prices on the ball dispensers and the cleaners and the picker-uppers and all the things that are associated with opening that up. And so that's our goal. We look to do something with the tennis courts and with the tennis courts and the driving range between now and the spring. And then keeping it clean, getting it clean, and moving forward. Between now and that time, we'll know what we're actually going to do with the building itself. We're not going to start with the pool because, well, there's a lot of reasons, but one, we're going into the fall, and it's just, there's lower fruit that I can get to with the driving range and the tennis courts than with that pool. Also, it's going to depend on what happens with the building and how we manage that pool. So that's kind of where we are in the thought process. Again, it's very fluid. It's just the plan right now. So we'll be doing that, and as we bring out the company doing the master plan with us, that'll get fined up a little bit more. Any questions about that? Yes, sir.
That plan is the revenue plan. How much you're gonna bring in, how you're gonna bring in, that sort of thing. Fees for the backhoe, for use of ballparks.
Right.
All that kind of stuff. Membership type fee, or is there a consideration?
Yeah, so all of that stuff will be, so what'll happen, he's asking fees, how will we calculate the fees to play golf? Will there be membership fees, will there be neighborhood fees, all that, or neighborhood breaks or whatever? All of that stuff will be a part of the business plan that we draw up to determine what we do with the golf course. Is it 9 holes, is it a passive park for the first few years? Is it, all of that stuff will be, as we develop a business plan for it. We would actually be farther along in that right now had it not been for COVID. I had some really good connections that we were working on, trying to give us a general idea of what it would take to get up and running and what fees would look like. But just, they even, at the beginning of this process, they even shut golf courses down. So trying to get back connected with the people who are going to help us to design those plans. Like I told you from the very beginning, I'm a city manager. My job is to run the city, to assess the business plans, to make good, sound decisions. That's what my experience in education is in. I will not be drawing the plans for a golf course because that's not my expertise. I'll get the right people in the right place to do that. So the closer we get, we'll know. We definitely will have in-city discounts on golf. That's absolutely. If we get to the golf park, it'll be an in-city discount. It's going to be a municipal course. And so until that course becomes, until and if that course was to become completely self-sufficient, we would have to show a value to the taxpayers inside the city limits. So, any other questions related to that? All right, one thing I forgot to bring up that actually the city clerk pointed out to me when I was talking about benefits and what are the benefits to being inside the city limits or outside. One of those is our fire service. Right now, you guys are on a different fire service, for some reason it escapes me, North Okaloosa, which is a good group of firefighters, but the problem is the distance from the fire station to your house puts that rating at what's called your ISO, or your insurance services rating, is a 9. The moment that you annexed, your insurance rating would go to a 4, because we're a 4 in the city. The lower the number, the better. And so that's something that you would see on your homeowner's insurance as well. Just something I forgot to mention last time. And my chief wanted to make sure I mentioned while I was here today. So, all right. Any other questions on the plan? Yes, sir.
Talk a little bit about the respective baseball fields.
Yes.
Are we talking nice? Are we talking grass infields, split base block,
Sure.
dugouts?
Sure.
Nice.
So that's what we'll figure out in the master plan. That is absolutely our desire. So what I was bringing up at the beginning is we want to maintain the culture of this area. Part of the question is, and that's why I cringe a little bit when we call it a regional sports complex. It's a regional sports complex in the fact that we can hold tournaments there. We will be able to hold tournaments there, but again, we're going to design this around the topography. Our goal is to design it around the topography and to keep the character out there, so we want it to look nice. When you started asking the light question, I thought you were going to ask me which way are the lights going to point. All of that stuff is going to be super important during the master planning of the process. So when you look at these fields and the orientation of these fields, it's going to be extremely important to this group right here. Also, how do you park your cars? So where are we going to park cars? We certainly can't play this many games with this many parking spaces, right? So how do we do that? So the direction of the cars and all of those things are a part of that master planning process. That's why this drawing doesn't work, because these little fields in here will not be fields. They're going to probably be some sort of utility overflow with parking that points the lights going the other direction, all of that stuff, because this is all the development down here. So that's not another, but I will another shameless plug to being inside the city limits. You have direct access to your council members. As we're doing that, we need to be designing this to protect the integrity of your properties. We don't want to, you definitely don't want us putting the parking lot here facing this way, right? And so all of that is about master planning. That's why you get the right people to do the right stuff. So I expanded on your question. Your question is, are we going to do a high quality project? That's our goal. And especially if we can if we end up being able to tap bed tax money for it, then it allows us to do what we would not normally do at a municipal level. So that was a good question. Any other questions on where we're at? Okay, where do we go from here? It's time to vote, or it will be time to vote. Hopefully everybody voted last week. And this is another shameless plug, but if you ever thought that your vote didn't count, look at the Ponder Destin race. 20-something thousand people voting, and it's separated by less than 100 votes. So who's going to get a chance to vote? It's the registered voters inside the district. That is not inside the space that's being annexed. That is not something the city chose to do. That is something that the state dictates as a part of this process. That's who gets to vote. Yes, sir.
So, maybe still get voted down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Regardless of how you vote.
Yes.
So we're not the only ones voting?
No, you are. The neighborhood's voting. It's the people in the neighborhood. That's who's voting.
You said it was on the ballot.
Well, I'm sorry. The term district was a really crappy term. When I said that, I meant the space that's being annexed. There's 105 residents in there. The eligible voters in those 105 houses are going to decide the future of your neighborhood.
And that is residents, not owners.
That's registered voters that live in the area. That live in the area, vote in the 105 homes. Yes. I wish it was not.
Some of those houses are rented. Are the renters going to vote?
If they go vote, they will have the opportunity to.
What about the homeowner?
That's correct.
Some of our renters can't vote.
Yeah, they can. If they live in that property and that is the place where they're registered to vote, I know, I don't like it either. It's not, that's not our choice. That's the way the state statute does annexation.
So if the renters vote, then the owners of that property can't vote.
That's correct.
Wow.
You have to live,
Wow.
it's the property, listen, I agree.
That's.
We don't set that rule, that's a state rule.
Who's,
Yeah, I mean, ideally, it would be a vote of the property owners. That would be the ideal vote, because then it's the fairest vote, but that's not the way the law is written. So we even looked at, and I won't chase this rabbit too far, but we even looked at if we created the election ourselves, if there a way that we can do that. But the statute's very clear, and you can look at it up on annexations. And we had several legal opinions. We met with Paul Lux, and we said, look, is there any way? Because I think actually we'll do better. I think we stand a better chance if the owners vote, because the owners have a vested interest.
so it's not the owners, it's the addressed residents.
Correct, registered voters.
Maybe I'm not hearing something, but you say you're putting it on the ballot, correct?
Yes,
So people that don't even live around there, they're inside the voting segment, they can still say no.
no, sir. If you voted this week, you showed them your driver's license when you went to vote?
Right.
Right, so when you did that,
You can have a special ballot then.
they printed a card out of the computer. That card had the things that are related to your parcel ID, where your voting registration is. So so that's why some people got to vote in some of the races and not some of the other races. So that's what will happen here. So if you're registered to vote and you live in the property in Foxwood, you will have a say in it. I said district earlier and I messed everybody up. There's 105 houses currently in this neighborhood The registered voters inside these 105 houses will decide the future of this neighborhood. That's how that works.
So they're the only ones that get that.
Yes, ma'am.
So, the homeowner that lives outside, outside the area in, say, in.
Arizona, I talked to one today. Yep.
So they're still, are they still registered to vote in this area?
No.
Well, then
No.
that's this then. So their renter gets to vote whether or not they get sewer, and then the homeowner has to pay for it?
Yeah, well, except for the homeowner only has to pay for the sewer attachment if they attach. So the renter's voting whether or not they're in the city, not, what the owner does have to pay is the property tax.
So the renter, the renter pays,
Renter's not gonna pay
the renter votes, and the homeowner has to pay for it.
Right,
Right, but the homeowner can choose not to connect to the sewer.
right, but the homeowner can choose not to connect, that's exactly, hey, listen, like I said, we don't write that rule. For us, it would be better to, I think it would be better if the owners voted. Because most of the owners that I speak to understand the value of what's going on, so. Did you have another in the brown shirt there? And then I'll come right here in the blue.
I was just betting.
You're just shaking your head about it too? I get it, man, I agree with you, yes,
So I own some lots, vacant lots. I can't vote.
correct.
So I'm gonna tell everybody I'm for it. I think you should vote for it. Okay?
Good, glad to hear that.
Yep.
I think you should vote for it too. Yes, sir. I'm sorry? I don't know that off the top of my head. You're saying how many registered voters do we have? I should have done that. I'm sorry, I talked
The
over.
percentage to pass.
Oh, it's 50 plus one. So you have to, it's not a super majority, it's just a majority. Any other questions? You guys think it's nerve-wracking for you? It's definitely nerve-wracking for me too. Yes?
I've been out of town, I just got back in about 20 minutes ago, so I missed most of this.
Okay.
Is there gonna be an opportunity to vote, or is that already done?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Okay.
November 3rd election is when the vote will occur. Yes, sir. All right. Any other questions, comments? Yes, ma'am.
What's the millage rate in the city compared to the county?
We've got, let's do it lot by lot, because I don't want to mess it up. We have your lot, we can tell you what the bill will be. So every single property is on these maps. The easiest way to do it is to walk up, look at your address, and do it that way.
But the rate is what?
I don't know it off the top of my head. I don't have it in front of me.
Village Street is on
My land was 10.3685,
7.65? What, I'll look it up for you. I don't have it off the thing that should be on my slides and the 9 million things I have, but I don't. I don't want to tell you wrong. Yes, sir?
It's over the value of your house.
It is based on the value of your house.
Every house is different in there. That's why I live there. There's not two houses alike,
Right,
So that's
right.
how you're gonna have to do it, man. Just have to look up here, see what they're telling
Yeah,
you.
it's right here. I'll be happy to show you exactly, what it is. Again, we're providing the facts to you. You guys got to decide. What, any other questions on this? Nope. All right. So what you're going to see on November 3rd when you guys go out and vote is that there will be a question that says, shall the city of Crestview annex the property described in ordinance 1775? And you will answer yes for annexation or no for not annexing. It's that simple. It's a yes or no vote. All of our futures hang on yes or no. All right, so dealing with the rumors, here's the deal. I've heard some really cool stuff about me since this started. I've heard I was in Louisiana ripping off a bunch of seniors and all kinds of stuff. I've been to Louisiana one time when my dad was in the hospital. But if you want to know the truth, here's the deal. This is my email address. If you've emailed me related to this, you can, I'm pretty sure that anybody in here who has emailed or called, I've taken your call, called you back, I will answer your questions. Like I said, I believe the deal is good for you. I believe the deal is good for the city. I will tell you the truth, whatever it is, and the chips will fall where they do on November 3rd. And if you guys vote not to annex, we'll move on to the next thing. We're going to have to figure out how to pay for it. And so, one of the questions I got, and I'm just going to be real honest with you. So one of the questions I got was, well, now you've bought it, so you're going to maintain it. Why would I annex? And the deal, and it was shrouded in the only reason you want me to annex is so that you can pay the note on the loan. So here's the deal. We're going to pay the note on the loan one way or the other. And so if we don't do it through the annex, then we will look at other options. Those options, we can still sell a portion of the property and develop it and then build the rec center on the back side of it. That is an option. I'm just being honest with you, because I will have to answer for how we do it. We moved forward on it because every poll that we took with this neighborhood gave the impression that they were interested in an annex and going ahead and annexing, getting connected to the sewer. We are willing to do everything we can do to make that make sense to you. But if it doesn't, we're going to have to figure out how to pay to develop that property. So we're going to do what we have to do. So. I don't want to leave it on a bad note, but that's, especially since someone called, that's the note, that's the information I get. I said, look, everybody said, oh yeah, we want to annex, and we bought the property, and you don't annex, well, I still have to figure out how to pay for it. Yes, sir.
But I just make a comment to my neighbors. To me, all the numbers mean nothing. What you just said is all that matters. When you decide whether it's going to be a pre-sports complex or subsidized housing, do we want you to have to care what we think?
Right. Well, that's definitely a part of it. But here's the deal. Again, it's a good deal for everybody. We want to do something nice out there. We want it to be a good property. We want it to be a good project. That's what we're trying to do. And I believe that if you look at the facts, that you'll agree with us. And I'm confident that at least whatever 50% of the voting people inside there are going to agree with us. We're going to go get this thing done. Any other questions before we close up? Yes, ma'am.
Is there a restaurant that's interested in opening up at the clubhouse?
I've gotten about 3 different calls from people who are interested in doing it.
Do you have anyone interested in running the golf course?
I've talked to 2 different golf course operators. Before COVID, I had interest. Since COVID, I haven't talked to them. Right. So the golf course is the harder sell. Yeah. The problem I'm having right now with the private run golf course is whether or not I do the improvements or they do the improvements and then figuring that out. So if I do the improvements, I can get somebody to run it. That's not, the problem is who puts the initial investment. Yes.
There's a question, you and I talked about this several months ago as well, but as the master plan goes forward, will there be any conversations with the college about potential partnerships and educational opportunities in the tourism, the restaurant, all of that?
Yeah, I've actually met with a couple of schools about different options, football stadiums and golf and all kinds of things out there. Right now, there's nothing cooking on that, but those are things that we have talked about. Because again, we have to figure out how to pay for it. If we don't do the annexation, we have to figure out how to pay for it. Don't forget to sign up if you'd like to get information from us. There is a Facebook page that the neighborhood is going to take over that can get this information. It's always on our website. We do have several council members here. Councilman Rinsich is here. Councilman Blocker is in the back. Wave at us, Councilman Blocker. And Councilwoman Brown. I think that's everybody that's here. And again, my staff is all around. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I want to be respectful of your time. Last go at it. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about the taxes.
Okay.
I'm real concerned about us getting nothing for an increase in taxes for several years, especially at my age, okay?
Okay.
What is the time plan?
Oh, let's talk tax, before everybody leaves, let's talk about the taxes. I think this may be your question. Since I got people leaving, let me jump in and I'll let you finish. If you're asking when would you see this on the bill, if the tax would be on the 21 roll, so you wouldn't see it you wouldn't pay that until 22. Is that the question?
2022?
Correct.
Okay, and how did you come up with the assessment for those taxes?
That's done by the tax assessor. And then, so the other.
County tax assessor?
Yes. So that's Ben Anderson, and I actually spoke with John Holguin, who's one of Ben's right hands up there today to find out when it would actually show up on your tax bill, because I couldn't answer that last time. The other thing is, I just spent an hour explaining what you do get during those first 2 years. But that first year of it is us knowing you being a part, you get to be a part of everything that's going on in the development process before you pay your first tax bill on it, which won't come until 2022. Yes, sir.
Again, I'm late. When are you gonna start cutting the grass?
We started cutting the grass the day after we bought it.
Okay.
Yeah,
We've already mowed at least 3 of the fairways. We just bought it a week ago.
He's mowed 10, 11, and 12, so.
Yeah, we've already mowed 10, 11, and 12. We literally got it and mowed the next day. And actually we're working, right now the city's struggling because a lot of the mowing that we do in our stormwater ponds and things like that is done through prison crews, which are not being released because of COVID. So we're actually I'm working with some volunteer groups to fill those spaces so we can continue to mow, to cover all that. So yes, ma'am.
So do I understand, if this goes through, the annexation goes through, we vote for that, then we will be part of the development of
Yes.
the master plan?
Yes.
On every phase of it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, I've talked to you guys every time something's changed. I've answered every question you asked me. None of that changes. Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure I understand something, I don't mean to be tracked, but,
Go ahead.
the $8,000 original, and you said 3,000, 3,240, whatever.
Right.
So if we're not annexed, you still plan on putting sewer in there?
Nope.
Is that where the 8,000 is coming from?
Well, that's the number. If you guys get together afterwards and your septic tanks continue to fail and you say, hey, Tim, we need sewer, that would be the number then.
Okay.
We will not move forward with sewer
Okay.
if you don't annex, because sewer's, quite frankly, sewer's not a good deal for the city right now. Us bringing sewer to you is not a good deal. It's a benefit. You need a return on your investment, just like we need a return on our investment. That's why we're willing to bond the money to put the sewer in up front. I assessed all that from the time we first had our conversation to now. I've talked to the health department about the conditions of your septic tanks. I've talked to Rogers and Grant septic tank about the $20,000 quotes and things over there. You guys need them. We can provide it. I can put it in the bond. We can do it and make it work, and it makes the deal better for you. So if I do it this way, I can let you attach when people can afford to attach or when they need to attach instead of having to do it all up front. But if the annexation fails, we will not continue the sewer. I'll go somewhere else. Any other questions? These are good questions. You guys are actually a great audience. I appreciate y'all. When you go out here and say nice things about me as much as you say ugly things about me. I'm just kidding. Thank you all for coming. We've got some cookies over there. If you need anything, let us know.
Thank you, Ken.